What's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and welcome to the Spare Tech Room, where today we are going to be doing an unboxing and overview of the Fujifilm X-T30 II. Now, this is one of the two cameras that I recommended for people that are just getting into the Fujifilm system. So we're going to go ahead and walk through the full unboxing experience, and then I'll show you a little bit around the camera so you know what you're getting into if you do decide to pick this up for yourself. Now, if you do think that you want to read more information on the X-T30 II, or if you decide to buy one for yourself, I'm going to go ahead and link to them in the description box below. If you use those links down there, it does help out the channel, so I appreciate it. Otherwise, if you want to know more about this camera and the other camera that I recommend for new people getting into the Fuji ecosystem, I'll link to my video breaking them both down up here in the corner and at the very end of the video, so be on the lookout for that. But for now, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look around the box here. This is what the camera comes in. Now, I did order the camera with just the body, so we're not getting any of the lenses, the kit lenses that come with it, but a pretty simple box here. It's got all the typical information that you might see in any other Fujifilm box. So let's go ahead and crack it open and see what we've got inside. Now, opening it up here, let's see, we've got a couple of QR codes here. One is to help you get to the manual for the camera, and the other one is to set up your smartphone application, so that way you can connect to the camera via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So you've got two different QR codes here for you. Once we crack it open a little bit further, we've got our whole instruction manual, which is a ton of information that I never read, but you know, if there's something you need to look up, you've got it there, as well as a bit more information here. It looks like this is to register the product. Then we've got another piece of cardboard that if we fold back, let's see here, we've got a strap here, a neck strap. It looks like a fairly thin one, so this should work very well for this small form factor camera. We also have a battery in here. It looks like it's using the older, smaller Fujifilm batteries, so these are gonna last you, I think it's somewhere around 380 shots is what they're rated at. The bigger battery that comes with some of the other Fujifilm cameras is going to give you about double that, but this is okay to get you started. You might want to pick up one or two extras though, if you're looking to go out and shoot for, you know, an entire day or something like that. Aside from that, we've got a little USB-C to USB-A cable for charging and data transfer, and also to use your camera as a webcam. That's right, the Fujifilm X-T30 II does have webcam functionality. It's a little tricky to get set up, and I've got an entire video on that. So if you also want to know how to set up your Fujifilm camera as a webcam, I'll link to that video at the end as well. And from there, next up is the actual camera. So let's go ahead and fold this bad boy open if we can. And here it is, the X-T30 Mark II in all of its plastic bag glory. So we'll bust this out. And let's take a little look around the camera here. Now, I have actually already gone over the camera myself, but I'll walk you through it and let you know what the different parts of it are and what you can expect. So starting here at the front, of course, we're rocking another Fujifilm APS-C sensor. This is a 26 megapixel, I think it's technically 26.1 megapixel X-Trans CMOS 4 sensor. So it's got a really solid sensor here. Really just as good as almost any of the other Fujifilm cameras on the market for a very budget price. Then, of course, also on the front, we've got this little toggle here, which I absolutely love. This is to switch it from manual focus to continual autofocus to single autofocus. And some of the new Fuji cameras don't have this, but I think this is an amazing thing to have on the front of your camera. It makes it very easy to switch back and forth between those focus modes. You've also got a front dial here to control some of your different settings, which this also does click in. You can't really tell, but you can press that in and it gives a little bit in order to toggle between different settings. So you can set this up to control your aperture as well as your shutter speed or your ISO, and just toggle between the two by pressing the button down. Also on the front, you've got a little bit of a grip here. It's not much, but it is enough to just get a little bit of your fingers in there. So if you're holding the camera, you're not going to completely drop it. I know on the new XE4, there is no bump whatsoever, which makes it a little bit slippery for me. Now, this isn't a really significant bump that you're going to have on the front, but it is enough to just get your fingers in there. Also on the front, we'll get to this here in a little bit, but you've got a flash toggle where when you flip this here, your flash does pop up. Now, this doesn't angle back or anything like that, so you're not going to be able to bounce your flash off the ceiling or anything, but you do have just a little flash here to help fill in some of those shadows if you're shooting at night. Aside from that, moving over to the side here, this is, I guess, camera left. You've got these jangly bits to attach your lanyard to or your wrist strap. These are a bit noisy for me, so you might want to remove those. I know some people like to do that. Unfortunately, these are not the kind that are kind of firmly in place, so they are going to make a bit of noise when they jangle around. You've also got your little port here where you have a 2.5 millimeter jack for your microphone. Now again, 2.5 millimeters. So if you have a standard microphone that you're looking to plug into this, you are going to need an adapter to take it from 3.5 down to 2.5. Aside from that, you've got your USB-C here, which that cable that we looked at earlier is going to help you transfer photos over to your computer or to charge the camera with the battery inside of it, or also, again, to use it as a webcam, as well as your, I think this is mini HDMI. I always mix up mini and micro, but either way, small HDMI port here. Of course, it's not going to be a full-size HDMI. There's just simply not enough space on the actual camera to get a full HDMI in there. But this will work just fine. For me personally, I like to pick up a little right angle HDMI adapter here, so that way it's not tugging on the port itself and you can just hook up a full-size HDMI in the other end. I'll link to this in the description as well. These are super cheap, but they're really, really helpful for these smaller HDMI ports. So we'll close that up now. And on the other side, there's not really anything other than another one of these little dangly bits, little eyelets for you to connect your lanyards and whatnot to. Then we'll go up to the top where you've got quite a bit going on here. These have a lot of retro-inspired dials on this particular camera. You've got your exposure compensation dial, which has a pretty firm click to it, so you're not going to accidentally bump that out of place. You've got a function button here, your power on-off switch as well, with a threaded shutter button here, so you can attach a different shutter release in here or use a remote shutter if you want to. For me, I'm not a huge fan of the way that this feels when you go and press it down to focus. There is a bit of give just to focus, and then just ever so slightly more pressure in order to release the shutter and take a photo. And for me, it can be a little tricky to make sure that you're not pressing it down too hard or pressing it down just hard enough to get it to focus. It's a little finicky there. Aside from that, you've got your shutter speed dial here. I have it currently set to auto, but you can adjust your shutter here manually if you want to go into shutter priority, as well as an auto switch right down here. And over on the other side, you've got another dial to switch between different modes. Currently it's set in single shot mode. You've got bracketing, you've got different advanced functions, panorama, of course a video mode. So a lot of different options here on this side, and then of course that flash switch that we looked at earlier. Then your typical hot shoe on top, and that's about it. Then we move over to the back of the camera. Around here you've got some standard functions, your menu button, your back button, a little joystick, which I've used and I actually quite like it, trash can function, playback, auto exposure lock, autofocus lock. You've got this Q button, which is really handy if you're not familiar with Fuji cameras. This will allow you to pull up kind of a quick menu. I know some people have said that they've had trouble accidentally pressing this button. I think especially on the original X-T30, on the X-T30 II, it does seem like they've made it a little more difficult to accidentally press. Then of course you've got your viewfinder up top. This is a pretty solid viewfinder for a camera this small. And then of course your screen on the back. Now this is not one of those screens that flips all the way out. It does instead have the ability to angle itself up. As you can kind of see here, you can get to about that level, or you can angle it downward. And this is really handy for photography, not so much for videography, but if you're trying to take low or high shots, then this is going to be really good for that. Now, of course, we're not going to go through the full menu system or anything like that, but if you want to see me do a video going through the full menu system, let me know in the comments below. Also at the bottom here, I should mention there is the area for you to put your battery into, as well as your SD card. The SD card can be a little tricky to get out of here, but they're pretty firmly in there. And of course, if you wanted to know that this was in fact the X-T30 II, it mentions it right down here. That's the only real distinguishing mark between the X-T30 and the X-T30 II is on the battery cover. And that's about it. That is the X-T30 II by Fujifilm. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, I've done a video talking about this particular camera and one other camera that I highly recommend if you're just getting into the Fujifilm system. I'll go ahead and link that right up here if you want to jump into that one next. Otherwise, I've got a video that I'll link right down here that is going to explain to you how to use these Fujifilm cameras as a webcam. So go ahead and jump on into either of those, and I'll see you next time in the Spare Tech Room. Be good.